and subject matter to cover, it would be hard just to pick out all of them. But over the years, I've helped the Rowan Public Library pick up manga titles like Fruits Basket, Vampire Knight, One Piece, and not too long ago I started reading a manga called The Blackbird. I found the book to be interesting, and just like Hakusai's manga. A bit of news. Hayao Miyazaki is working on a manga even at the age of 73. Amazing. We ring this bell in honor of the 2003 to 2014 manga artist. This last ringing of the bell is to all the manga artists yet to come who carried on the legacy of Hakusai. This one person's feeble attempt to show respect to the Japanese people. However, one word, Japanese word, is that this country's language may yet show the best way I can show my respect to them by saying the word domo. We now open the panel up for questions.
I don't have any questions.
Oh, great. Well, like I said, Hakusai, we owe a lot to him because without his manga, we wouldn't be here right now.
He's considered the first person.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand the word manga means book.
Yeah.
So when Hakusai's manga came out, that was the first comic book.
Right.
And the illustrations in the very first few pages, you see the simple drawings, and he did it with block art. A gentleman by the name of Piccolo went to Japan, and he was a curator of the Boston Museum. And he went and he actually purchased the actual wood blocks.
I wonder if they're still there.
They are. And recently they found them and they took them back over to Japan because Piccolo did write a letter out saying that these prints should be printed again. So they went and they found people who could actually still do block prints, and they went and printed up from the original Hakusai wood prints, new prints of his work.
Are they at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts?
Yes.
Good, because I'm going up there in July, and my mother and I may go to the museum and check that out.
Yes, we're having a special little celebration at the Rowan Public Library in September, which we're going to be doing a display showing Hakusai's work and try to give a rough timeline of the development of manga from that point to this point. So that's something that our anime group's quite busy working on, and we'll have that up in the time of September at the main branch of the Rowan Public Library.
So what is the difference between, let's say, the manga of, say, the earlier works? When I say earlier works, let's say something in the line of, say, I'm trying to think of the name. It's on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it. I want to say Alpha Boy, and it's not. It's
Astro Boy?
Astro Boy, thank you.
Tezuka's creation is called Atomic Boy over in Japan.
Exactly. Versus, say, the more newer stuff of, like, how about Detective Conan? And even though it's simplistic in the drawing, it's a lot more dynamic when you look at some of the more unused characters of Detective Hakushi or something like that.
Well, Hakusai, when he was drawing, he drew during his time. And I mean, I can give you an example. This is one of Hakusai's pieces where you see a spirit in this old man. And this is basically his drawing style. Now, basically, Hakusai did do color artwork.
Right.
And like you have this nobleman here, and you have these people working. So he was drawing mostly during his time period, what was going on during his time. Unfortunately, when he died, it was about 4 years prior to Commodore Perry coming over to Japan and saying, "Okay, open your borders up."
Right.
But Hokusai was influenced by the Dutch, because there was a Dutch settlement in Japan during that time.
Right.
So he got to see some Dutch artwork, and he tried to copy some of the perspective from the Dutch of Hokusai's work. To go up to where you would say where Astro Boy is, okay, you've got like...
That's still 1960s, though.
Yeah. We're talking panel by panel by panel by panel ideas, so you're looking at like a film.
Yes, exactly.
Where Hokusai is trying to take and tell a story with one picture versus, many pictures, doing like a comic strip.
Well, yeah, it was more of comic strip style, because I'm still thinking manga, not in the line of, say, the animation type scenario, because the animation actually came almost, 5 to 10 years after?
1917 is what I'm going for as far as when Japan started officially animating.
Right.
There is a debate right now. We can say, there are people who accuse us of saying 1903 is when Japan started animating. I go, no, you're wrong. They started animating in 1917, and people have been going back and forth and back and forth.
But video was actually invented itself in the 1800s, though.
Well,
so
you're talking about film.
Yeah, just film itself.
Yeah.
And some of the earliest film was still animation. I mean, it was still the turn-based pages of like taking a book and doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was picture by picture of still animation.
Mm-hmm.
Walt Disney was actually later in that whole scenario,
Yeah.
and even he was actually influenced by a lot of the Japanese artwork because of the way that he was artistically drawn to the whole. A face was actually done in circles, not done in the whole artistic style of, say, Rembrandt's and things of that nature, of that whole artistic of a nose actually protruding from a face. It was just added.
Yeah.
So in that whole scenario, if you look at, say, some of the early works of the Japanese artwork, it was done also in that way when it was done for entertainment purposes instead of inspirational purposes.
Well, you make a good point. You really do. But showing you some of the more like this type of work is from the 1920s. And of course, Speed Racer came out in the 1960s.
And you see a dynamic difference. What I was talking about is the whole, like with Astro Boy, it literally looked more like that versus this, which is more like Conan. So it literally, you're literally redoing it again. Why? Because it's going more backwards and then back forwards again. Because look at Domo.
Yeah.
I mean, even Domo is more simplistic versus exponential. So, and expressive. There again, Conan. Conan is still done, the expressions that they make are still simplistic. Versus if you say, well, we're going to go with Soul Eater and this, that, and the other, and the whole, a demon is like really big, bad, ominous, always changing type, exaggerated severely. Versus, say, let's say something like Hell Teacher. Hell Teacher is literally this.
Yeah.
That's the way it's drawn.
Yes, and that's the from this drawing from Hokusai's manga. You see that sort of exaggeration. When Hokusai drew a demon, it usually was very frightening, very
very ominous, but ghost-like in appearance. And
sort of reminds me of like the animated Medicine Seller. That sort of like video that very stylistic.
Very true, very true. In that whole scenario of that, there again, Mushishi, again, doing it more this style, and also the Book of Friends, same scenario. It's going backwards, not forwards. So there again, there's nothing new. Why? Because it just goes in a pattern. It's still going in a pattern, but where does it originate?
And then there's the more exaggerated, but this time more human features, like with Trigger doing Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann.
But then you go with the more, let's go even further extreme. Titans. I mean, you want to talk fairly extreme, that. Vampire Hunter D. very, I mean, when you're talking to books, very detailed. I mean, almost artistically Rembrandt type stuff, and freaking Van Gogh in the dot style. So it's very, very artistic. Just because something is technically old doesn't give it any less or more value. Not anymore. Why? Because of the fact being, when you take a look at a Rembrandt or a Picasso, I see the exact same scenarios in a lot of the art that we can actually see digitally, especially now. So in that whole scenario, just because, now if you take, say, a Rembrandt, and you 3D that image, it would still be on the same qualifications of Ghibli and Earthsea, or Spirited Away for that matter. When you take a look at the, let's say, the Madam from Spirited Away, let's take a look at that. Look at the artwork of that and the dynamics of a big head on a small body, but the detail is in the detail of literally making something that is drawn actually seem real, because of the fact being the shadows and the artistic styles of actually bringing it to life. Well, this is what...
Nuances of the character, like Chihiro, when she puts on her shoes, she just does a little tap tap thing. You didn't have to add that. You should just had things. But that's what a real person does.
Exactly. I mean, that's what you do, is you make something, you imagine it, you put it to paper, and then from there, you actually bring it to life. And the Japanese actually think that if you go and you put your heart and soul into something, or you care about something, it literally starts developing a sense of itself, in of itself, based off of the relationship it has with you. So in that whole scenario, yes, it comes alive. And the more you believe it, the more it comes alive. But then that's the development of it, isn't it? With this especially. Because of the fact being, it starts off with books. It starts off with just reading something or seeing something. And then from there, the inspiration grows.
Or maybe listening to a fairy tale and going like, okay, what can I draw from that fairy tale, and making it really extreme.
Number one in my book, Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
Alice in Wonderland was a book, and very, very goth, very, very dark. Goes extremely childish after the second book. Then it goes to Disney and goes even more simplistic. And even worse is, the dark hair goes blonde, the blue eyes go dark. I mean, there's a lot of...
The drug references are gone.
Yeah.
Like Wizard of Oz.
The insanity is gone. The insanity in of itself is gone and is purified. Then all of a sudden you get the video game McGee, and it brings it right back to the horror aspect of sitting here saying, yes, but we're not going to stay sad. We are not going to stay beaten. We are not going to stay in a broken state. We're going to give her a backbone. We are going to give her her sanity back. Not only are we going to give her her sanity back, we're going to make her fight for it.
Right.
And then
they make her into an actual character. But Disney didn't do that. Disney did to her what they do to all their female characters for a long time. They just turned her into
princess.
Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this.
They turned her into feminine.
Dante.
Yeah.
Instead of passing out, is more.
But in American McGee's Alice, she's back to what she should be. She's going through Wonderland and she's exploring and surviving.
Wait. We're going to go further back again, though. Superman started off simplistic.
Extremely.